it is.
Say how long it is.
Oh, geez, it's like
2
feet. Probably like 2.5 feet, maybe even 3. Giant. Oh, it's so heavy. I don't even know how much it weighs, probably.
Take a picture.
Okay, here it comes. 43.6 is what it says. 43.6 pound watermelon. That's compared to my boot. My goodness, that thing is huge.
Jeez. It's like one of my
43.6. All right, I'm very excited to begin on our next project, which is I'm building a greenhouse, homemade from scrap material. Not all of it is scrap, but a good amount of it is just scrap material. And that's going to give us a space to start seeds in the spring or even in the late winter. And it'll also give us a space to grow over the winter. So we'll have a winter garden complete with grow lights and what have you. And then also our climate is rather cool in the summer, so it's hard to grow things like peppers and watermelon, stuff like that. So it'll give us a space to grow crops over the summer that don't like our cool climate. And so I'm pretty stoked about this project. It's been a long time in the making, actually, and I've finally got all the materials and the design and the location planned out. And now I'm going to dig into it. So these are some of our materials. Okay, so here's the update so far is I've got all of my first set of posts set up. These are going to be for the sides. I'm going to have 2x6s screwed to these, and then the plastic will come down to these and will roll down the sides. Now I'm going to be pouring cement in here, and I'll be using my level to get everything all nice and straight. this is where I ended up last night. I got 5 posts in. Those are going to form the base of the outer edge. Once you see the finished product, that'll make more sense. Then they're in there nice and sturdy. The concrete set up nicely, so everything's a go on the next step, I'd say. Next up, I'm going to be drilling holes here. It's going to be about a 16-foot greenhouse. So from this edge here, from those posts out here, it'll be 16 feet. I also need to drill holes in the middle for these support beams. So it's going to be a little bit overbuilt, but I'm okay with that because we get quite a lot of wind here, including winds like in a big storm. We might get wind up to 70-75 miles an hour. So it is overbuilt, but when we have those real strong winds, I'm going to be glad that I have all this nice sturdy wood and cement that's holding it together. Okay, so this looks like it's going to be the final layout for the overhead beam for the greenhouse. So I've got my laser level going, and so now I'm going to come through. I'm going to drill one hole here. I've got this flag to show where my next hole is, and so on. And then those are all following the laser level, so it'll be just a nice dead straight overhead beam to build the greenhouse over. The distances are pretty consistent between these posts. This post to this line, that's going to be our center line. So this post to this line is about the same distance as this post to this line, next post to that line, and so on. So all the way down, it's pretty consistent relative to these posts that we poured last weekend. So I have a little entourage today following me around, which is kind of fun. This is how I'm setting this up. This is going to be one of my sidewalls here. So I have this end post. So that's all set now. And then I've got sort of a shorter lateral piece that's going to go here, over the top here. And then this is where the sort of fine detail begins, because I need to make sure that this top lateral piece is going to be exactly halfway between this post and this post. So I need to make sure that these posts are lined up just so that this guy ends halfway in between, and then on top the two posts will butt up against each other with a seam in the middle. So I'll have one post coming from this side, one post coming from this side, one lateral piece coming from this side, one lateral piece coming from this side, and there'll be a seam in the middle. Okay, so things have come along nicely. Got all the posts in, all the side rails in, and at this point, just getting ready to screw in these hoops here. These are PVC, and it's 1-inch PVC, and I'm screwing it in here. I'll probably put 2 screws, but I just have 1 for now. And then trying to have it go straight up as best I can, so that the inner part of this wall, there'll be plenty of room, because it should go straight up from here. Have a lot of vertical lift right there at the side to get plenty of space for people who are walking through here or working in the beds down here. And then they're coming over the top, and then I'm going to screw it into the top as well. So it's got a couple inches of clearance right there. I'm going to screw it into the top. Comes over to the other side, and just the same thing. 1 3.5-inch Tex screw here, or Torx screw rather, with a washer, and then screwed into this 2x6 on the other side. And so on this end, there's going to be animal panel. Oh, thank you. And there'll be animal panel on the other side as well. So these hoops will just be in the middle portion, and then there'll be animal panel on the ends to serve as well, just because this PVC is really flexible, and so the animal panel will basically make the ends nice and rigid. So the hoops are in. It's not pretty, but I think it's functional. If you don't look too closely, then it looks relatively even and consistent. And the shape is turning out the way I wanted. It's basically half of an ellipse. They're a little bit flimsy, so that's a concern. But I think, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to screw in the tops. And once I do that, I think they'll be a little more sturdy. And then the greenhouse plastic is going to be held using some animal panel that's going to loop up over the end of the greenhouse here. So that animal panel is going to be the real anchor that will allow us to tension the plastic. So I think everything's coming along the way I intended. Since these are not really used for tension, they're really just there for support. I think they're going to be perfectly adequate. And the fact that they're going to be screwed into the top rail there means that even in the wind, we shouldn't have any trouble keeping the plastic on. We'll see how this goes. Okay, so here I've got 2 20-foot pieces of animal panel. There's this one here, 20 feet long. And this one here, 20 feet long. So this one's nicer than the other one. This one actually has the weld right in the middle. So right at 10 feet is where that weld is. And so at 10 feet, that's where it's going to be going over the top brace of the top wooden brace of the greenhouse. That means that it's going to be nice and even. Each side of this is going to curve nice and evenly because it's not going to have a seam on the sides where it's going to be curving. The seam is right in the middle, and it's not really curving right in the middle. This other one, not quite as nice. It's one solid piece of animal panel, so that's 16 feet. And then I welded on this extra little bit right here. And so the seam, you'll see, is more toward the edge. So this is actually going to create some problems because it's not going to curve quite as evenly on both sides of the greenhouse. So hopefully it won't be anything too annoying, but just one of the many issues that we're having to deal with because this is a DIY job, and so it's basically a series of navigating all these little issues that you run into. Now I'm just getting the pipe ready to hold the plastic. So I'm going to be using the pipe method where you have one pipe nestled inside of another pipe, and you put the greenhouse plastic in the larger pipe and then use the smaller pipe to lock it in place. The internet told me that you're not supposed to use PVC with greenhouse plastic because it'll degrade the UV protection, and over time the sun damage will cause it to tear. So instead of using PVC, I'm trying PEX because it doesn't have that same leaching effect, that chlorine leaching effect that PVC does. And so I may come to regret this, but basically what I'm doing is I'm taking my router, got my little router taper right here, got my little router, and then I'm just cutting a channel in this PEX. Hey, Tummy. Cutting a channel in this PEX, and then you can see here this 1/2-inch PEX. This is 3/4 PEX. The white stuff is 3/4, the blue stuff is 1/2. And it fits in there quite nicely. Nice and snug. You can work it in all the way down. And even after it's all the way in there, it's still a nice snug fit, which I think is awesome because once you get the greenhouse plastic in there, in addition to the blue plastic, it'll be quite crowded in there, and it'll have a nice tight fit, nice tight squeeze. So the plan is I plan on screwing these white pieces in using some deck screws. Just put some screws in periodically all the way down. Screw there, screw there, enough to keep it from twisting. And then, bring the greenhouse plastic down and then squeeze these in. To lock it in place. Kind of like the wiggle wire, but the cheapskate version. And then I've got my little belt sander here. And when I cut this white PEX with the router, it leaves a bit of a sharp edge on it. So I'm just sanding it down with the belt sander to take that edge off. And then I'll be mounting this underneath the wooden rail that runs along the side of the greenhouse. So the plastic will come down, go over that wooden rail. This will be mounted underneath. So we'll bring the plastic down. This will be facing downward toward the ground like that. And then the plastic will dangle down the side of the greenhouse so that we can roll it up, roll it down whenever we need to. The PEX as it comes off the roll, and obviously it's quite stiff and sturdy, so takes a little bit of time to straighten it out. I figure the more time you invest doing this, the easier your life is going to be later on. So I think I don't want to rush this. I think I just want to take my sweet time, get it nice and straight. Now, this is what I was talking about earlier, that if I made the pieces too long, I was worried that they'd become a real pain to handle. And so sure enough, I had a real nice run there, all the way up to about here, and then things went kind of off the rails a little bit. So it shifted, and then from there on, it just started going further and further sideways. Now, you can obviously just twist it. All right, I'm twisting it. That straightens it back out, so it may not be that big of a deal. Maybe I'll try it with this piece and see how big of an issue it is. But I just think that having it like this, where it's just all nice and smooth and consistent, where you don't have any shifting, is going to make things a whole lot easier later on.
How can you guys stay there? I've been laying on the car for a long time. It's freezing. Why are you waiting on the car? You got it. What?
Okay, well, the PEX tubing used as a greenhouse plastic anchoring device is working out well enough. I've got this 3/4 inch PEX tubing here, and then nestled inside of it is 1/2 inch PEX tubing. And it just so happens that that 1/2 inch PEX nestles just right inside the 3/4 inch PEX. And that means that, you just cut open this 3/4 inch PEX and you can slip that 1/2 inch PEX in there. And so I just put the greenhouse plastic in that channel and then quick, press the 1/2 inch PEX into the 3/4 inch PEX, and it holds the greenhouse plastic nice and tight. Nice and tight. So it is working. It's not great for reasons that we'll talk about in a separate part of the video. It's not great for a variety of reasons, but for my first greenhouse, it is at least working, and I'm thinking it's going to be fine as a first go at building a greenhouse. wanted to get a demo of the greenhouse in the wind. We're right off the ocean, about 15 miles off the ocean. So for us, springtime wind and summertime wind are a big factor around here. And so that's basically what I've designed this greenhouse for, is high wind. And you can see it's doing reasonably well. It's basically holding up as well as I would want it to. I'm still a little bit nervous about how this is going to change long term, because as you can see, this plastic does take a beating. And so long term, I'm not sure how long the plastic is going to hold up. But as of right now, it's doing okay. And, you know, it's tough plastic. It's designed for abuse, and it's designed for, you know, multiple years worth of use. So far so good. You can hear and see the gusts are pretty strong. Earlier today, we definitely had some gusts over 40, 45 miles an hour, and that's pretty normal around here. And so far, everything's holding up, like I said, as well as I would want it to. And then I'll keep an eye on this and see if there's any refinements I can make going forward. Since the wind is straight out of the west, it's quite calm in here. It's super windy on the outside, but in here it's nice and calm, so that's pretty nice. So the seedlings are not experiencing too much wind stress. They're not drying out too much faster than they normally would. And so it's working as a wind barrier in addition to working as an actual greenhouse to sort of elevate the temperature. So that's pretty exciting. This is a view of the inside. This is a view of the inside during this wind. So here's the end wall construction. I have these boards here to just kind of build a frame, and then I've got these boards here forming the outside of the frame. I have animal panel on this edge here. The animal panel is there to give it some structure, some rigidity, which it does a pretty good job of. The animal panel is attached at various points along this wooden frame, and that gives it some extra structure. You can see as I push on the animal panel, it kind of moves that frame a little bit as well. And then I've got my door here made out of these 4x6 pressure treated boards here. And then I've got that same PEX, the 3/4 inch PEX on the outside, 1/2 inch PEX on the inside. I've got the plastic nestled in there. What we found is that since there's tension on both sides, that plastic doesn't have a whole lot of give. So we ended up getting some tearing here. So I'm not going to be using this on the sides here. I'm actually just going to batten this down with wood. So I just put the plastic all over the end of this thing. I also have the plastic up on top here that comes from the top of the greenhouse. It's folded over here, and then I've got both this plastic and this plastic nestled in the same PEX channel here. That one didn't have any tearing, so that's good. And then just like the other PEX channels, I've got them drilled in here with Torx screws. And this is nice and solid. Like, this just does not go anywhere. So this is really, it works well. Goes all the way down, and then I've got channels all the way down to the ground here with that 1/2 inch nestled in that 3/4 inch PEX. So yeah, so I'm just gonna cut out my door here. This is my door. So I'm gonna cut out the door, and then, like I said, batten this down on the sides here to keep the plastic in place permanently. So here we go. Now I kind of like the doorway as it is there. I don't really need a door that closes. Maybe I'll need it in the winter, but as of right now, having a door that stays open like that is actually okay by me. So I might just leave it this way, not batten things down just yet, and just see how it does for a couple of weeks. So yeah, that's the update so far. I take it back. I think I am going to batten down the edges just because I know the setup that I have right now is not permanent.